a country's leader murdered by a CIA-supported assassination plot. That sounds more like a modern-day action film than a real-life history of the Congo. The Congo Free State began as a private colony belonging to Leopold II, King of Belgium. Leopold II established monopolies over resources such as ivory and wild rubber that the Congo contains in bulk. Eventually, an international campaign protesting the atrocities committed against the rubber plantation workers led to the Congo Free State being turned into a traditional colony entitled the Belgian Congo. In the Belgian Congo, pressure mounted throughout the 1950s for Belgian independence. Finally, in 1959, the Belgians allowed the Belgian Congo to become the Democratic Republic of the Congo on June 30th, 1960. However, the problems for the Congo were only beginning. When the Belgian control of the Congo ended suddenly in 1960, the new Congo was left unprepared to run itself. Besides the shortage of doctors, lawyers, military officers, and other trained professionals, the new Democratic Republic of the Congo was left in pre-independence election results that were inconclusive. The new government of the Democratic Republic of the Congo was composed of Joseph Kasavubu, a president who was conservatively inclined, and Patrice Lumumba, a prime minister who was a left-wing nationalist. The Belgian crisis, as it is now called, began immediately after Kasavubu and Lumumba gained control of the new Congo. Thus, only 2 weeks after independence was gained, the Armée Nationale Congolaise, or ANC, mutinied. Thus, only 2 weeks after independence was gained, the Armée Nationale Congolaise, or the ANC, mutinied. The ANC attacked Belgian nationals who were still living in the Congo, leading to the influx of Belgian troops into the new democracy. To make matters worse, on July 11, 1960, Moise Tshombe, president of the Katanga province in Congo, announced that his territory, which was rich in mineral resources, was independent. Now, Kasavubu and Lumumba appealed to the United Nations to help them restore order and unity to their independent country. The UN forces arrived as soon as July 15th, but were facing several diverse problems. These problems included how to achieve the withdrawal of Belgian forces, restore public order, defend the UN force, avoid the interference in local politics, and prevent the crisis drawing in the superpowers. The UN forces in Congo decided that the best bet for peace was to convince the Belgians to withdraw their troops, which had apparently encouraged Katanga's withdrawal from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. However, the limited involvement of the UN forces led to disappointment from Lumumba, who proceeded to accuse the UN of being imperialists. This is when the Soviet Union developed an interest in the Congo. The Soviet Union thought that this anger at the UN could be used to their advantage. Thus, as Lumumba became more and more anti-Western, the more attractive the Congo looked to the Soviets. This was because the Soviets perceived the UN as merely a tool of American foreign policy. At this point in the crisis, the conflict is becoming more ideological. The Soviet Union began declaring that the UN was responsible for the Western conspiracy in the Congo. Khrushchev even went as far as to address the UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld and called for the abolition of this position. Khrushchev called for a troika, or coalition made up of 3 representatives from 3 groups of states: Western, Communist, and Afro-Asian. Little support was given to the idea of Khrushchev. While the UN Secretary General, Dag Hammarskjöld, survived Khrushchev's attacks, the Congolese crisis was continuing to intensify. In mid-September 1960, ANC commander Mobutu Sese Seko announced an army coup. Mobutu received backing from the USA because of his anti-communist beliefs. Expelled the Soviet and Eastern Bloc diplomats from Leopoldville, the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. At this point, Kasavubu and Mobutu joined together and Lumumba was forced to ask the UN for protection. However, In November 1964, the UN General Assembly accepted a delegation from the new government of Kasavubu and Mobutu. Thus, indirectly, the UN was accepting the new regime. In response to this betrayal, as it was perceived by Lumumba, Lumumba left the UN protective forces. Lumumba was quickly captured by Mobutu's ANC forces, where he was handed to Tshombe's secessionist government and brutally murdered. In response to this murder, where there have been claims of CIA involvement, many countries removed their contingents from the ONUC. Ultimately, the crisis resolved itself when the ONUC crushed the Katanga succession. This led to the division of the Congo to be based less on the Cold War lines and more on the lines of imperialist versus Afro-Asian countries. In fact, the United States was moving more against the traditional European imperialist position. The ONUC forced successfully unified Congo by the end of 1962, and the forces were removed by 1964. However, the final twist in the story of the Congo crisis, one that lasted for decades. Tshombe was elected the new prime minister of Congo, and Mobutu replaced Kasavubu as head of state in 1965. Mobutu gained real control of the Congo and wielded his power for more than 3 decades as one of the most corrupt regimes in the world, completely supported by the United Nations.